Hello and welcome to Sleepy Owl. Tonight's story is not a fairy tale of adventure. It is the true account of a pirate's existence, stripped bare of all its gilded myths. What awaits is a journey into a world of profound brutality, a life so harsh it defies our modern imagination. If you find this voyage into the past compelling, consider subscribing to the channel. It truly helps me to continue bringing you these stories. For now, settle in and let's begin. Forget everything you think you know. The pirate of legend, the grinning rogue with a parrot, swinging on ropes beneath a tropical sun, is a comforting lie. He never drew breath. The real man who sailed under the black flag was not born from dreams of plunder or a thirst for open horizons. He was forged in a crucible of pure desperation. His story doesn't start with a map marked with an X, but with a hand clamped over his mouth in a dark alley. You did not choose this life. The choice was made for you. Picture a bustling, filthy port town in the early 1700s. The air reeks of fish, tar, and hopelessness. You are nobody. A laborer, a runaway apprentice, a man drowning his sorrows after a failed harvest. You have nothing. And in that moment of vulnerability, they find you. The press gang. They are not soldiers. They are predators, employed by the crown or merchant captains to fill ships with flesh. Their logic is simple. Any man with 2 hands and a heartbeat can pull a rope. There is no discussion. A cudgel strikes the back of your head. The world dissolves into pain and shouting. You wake in darkness, the rocking motion unfamiliar and sickening. The smell is the first thing that truly tells you where you are, a thick, palpable stew of sweat, mildew, vomit, and human waste. You are in the belly of a ship, and you are now its property. This is your introduction to the sea. Not as a highway to freedom, but as a floating prison. Your old name, your past, the person you once were, it is all dead. You are now a body, a unit of labor. The work is ceaseless, a cycle of agony that defines your waking hours. Your muscles scream as you haul on sodden ropes thicker than your wrist. You climb a spiderweb of rigging high above the deck, where a single misstep means a long, final fall onto hardwood or into a waiting ocean. Your hands become raw, then scarred, then permanently twisted into tools. You sleep where you collapse, in a space no larger than a coffin, pressed against strangers whose desperation mirrors your own. What passes for food is a mockery. Hard, worm-riddled biscuits you must smash against a beam to dislodge the wriggling inhabitants. Meat so salted it burns your tongue and thirsts you for days. The water in the cask is warm, slimy, and tastes of the rotten wood that holds it. Disease is not a possibility, it is a guarantee. It lives with you, breathes with you. Your gums grow tender, then begin to bleed as scurvy sets its roots. Your strength seeps away, but the work does not relent. The ship's officers move among you like farmers among stubborn livestock. Their tool for motivation is the lash. The cat-o'-nine-tails. You will hear its whistle and the resulting screams long before you feel its kiss. Men are flogged to the bone for stealing an extra biscuit, for speaking back, for simply being too slow. The message is carved into everyone's back. You are disposable. So, where does the pirate emerge from this nightmare? Not from a love of evil, but from a simple, stark comparison. On a naval or merchant vessel, you suffer and die to make a rich man richer. You are beaten for a captain's pride. The pirate, whispers the man in the next hammock, operates on a different code. He votes. He shares what he takes. His captain can be replaced. To your broken spirit, this doesn't sound like criminality. It sounds like the first glimmer of justice you've witnessed in years. The transformation is not marked by a ceremony. It happens in a moment of chaotic violence. A strange ship closes in, its flag initially friendly, then suddenly replaced by a black banner. Panic erupts on your deck. But as the boarders swarm over the rails, you notice something unsettling. They are not the rabid animals you were told to expect. They move with a terrible purpose. And their captain, standing amid the chaos, offers you a clear, cold choice. You can stay with this floating hell that enslaved you, or you can step across to his ship. Become a brother. Have an equal vote. Share equally in whatever is taken. You look at the cruel face of your own master. You feel the ache of the lash on your back. You taste the blood in your mouth from rotten gums. The line between damnation and salvation has never seemed so thin or so easy to cross. What would you choose? In that moment, with nothing left to lose, the black flag doesn't represent terror. It represents a terrible, desperate hope. You take a step. The wooden plank groans under your foot. Behind you, your old life vanishes into the ship's wake. Ahead lies a different kind of hell, but it is one you have chosen. And that, you tell yourself, makes all the difference. But that first step is a lie. A comforting fiction you whisper to yourself. You haven't stepped into a brotherhood. You've stepped into a machine built for predation. The welcoming nods are real, but they are layered with a cold, appraising scrutiny. You are an unknown element, a potential coward, a spy. Your new brothers will watch everything you do, waiting for a flicker of hesitation that will mark you as weak. The ship that is now your home, your fortress, and your prison is a testament to pure function. Every modification, every cleared space, every barrel and rope has a single purpose: to hunt. You are no longer a sailor. You are now part of the mechanism. The deck is kept clear for fighting. The rails are fitted with hooks for grappling lines. The cannons are not for show. They are the teeth of the beast, and you will learn to feed them and clean them. Your education begins immediately. How to wield a cutlass not in an elegant duel, but in the cramped, bloody chaos of a boarding action. How to fire a pistol once, and then immediately use it as a club. How to move through the tangled rigging in near silence, a shadow against the moonlit sails. More importantly, you learn to see the world through new eyes. Every distant sail is no longer just another ship. It is a calculation. Is it a threat? Is it prey? What might it be carrying? The horizon becomes a ledger of potential profit and death. And you feel it happening, the slow erosion of the man you once were. The moral boundaries that once guided you, instilled in a childhood you can barely recall, begin to soften like salt in the rain. Respect for another man's property becomes an absurd notion. Obedience to lawful authority is the punchline to a bitter joke. Concern for the innocent? On the open sea, there is no innocence, only the strong and the soon-to-be conquered. You rebuild your conscience around a simpler, starker principle. What ensures the survival of you and this crew? Everything else is just noise. You even shed your name. The one your mother gave you belongs to a ghost. You adopt a new one, often a crude joke or a description of a scar. You become Red Tom, or Silent Pete, or Bones. The person who had a family, a home, a trade, that person fades like a dream upon waking. In his place is someone harder, sharper, more dangerous. Can you feel the old you slipping away? Or is it a relief to let him go? This new home is a wooden world of relentless hardship. The romance of the endless blue ocean is a cruel mirage. You are trapped on a few hundred feet of creaking timber with the most volatile, desperate men alive. The ship itself is a maze of hidden dangers. Every surface is slick with a film of salt, tar, and less identifiable fluids. A misplaced foot on a smooth-worn plank can send you careening into a railing or over the side into the dark water. Below decks is where the true character of your existence resides. The gun deck is a low-ceilinged cavern, forcing you to hunch like a goblin. The air here is a solid thing. A dense fog of gunpowder residue, the sweet-rot smell of bilge water, and the overwhelming, ripe odor of unwashed men who have been living in their own filth for months. You don't breathe it, you chew it, and it leaves a coating in your throat. You sleep in a hammock slung between two cannons, if you're lucky. Your neighbor's snores are in your ear. His movements rock your fragile bed. There is no privacy, no solitude, not even in sleep. You learn to rest with one eye open, your hand never far from your knife, because the man who shared his rum with you at dusk might decide he wants your boots before dawn. The food is, admittedly, a slight improvement, but that is a relative term. The cook, a man missing an eye and a hand, creates his horrors in a tiny galley. Salted beef so hard and dark it resembles wood. weevil-filled biscuits that must be soaked in stale beer to be edible, a thin, greasy stew that is more a vehicle for maggots than nourishment. Fresh water is a precious, foul commodity, turning green and thick within weeks. Most drink rum not for joy, but because the fermentation kills what the water would otherwise grow inside them. Your constant companions are the rats. They are more at home here than you are. They own the shadows, feast on the stores, and watch you with indifferent eyes. You wake to find them gnawing at your leather bag, or at your toes if you're too still. Some men catch and eat them, a grisly source of fresh meat. The rats, in their way, are part of the crew. And the smell. It is a complex, living entity. It is the sour tang of sweat, the metallic hint of old blood, the choking cloud of the bilge, the sharpness of gunpowder, and beneath it all, the sweet, faint perfume of decay. This smell seeps into your woolen clothes, your hair, your very skin. It becomes your signature. In port, civilized people will flinch from you before you even speak. They smell the floating hell you carry with you. Bathing is a fantasy. Fresh water is for drinking, barely. Salt water leaves your skin cracked and burning. You become accustomed to your own filth. During a rain squall, men will strip naked on deck, laughing and shouting as the fresh water sluices away the worst of the grime, but it's a temporary reprieve. The lice and fleas are a constant, crawling plague. You spend idle moments picking them from the seams of your shirt, a pointless, endless battle. This is your world now. This damp, stinking, treacherous wooden box is all you have. You must make peace with the rats, the stench, the back-breaking labor, and the ever-present threat of sudden, violent death. Because beyond these walls of oak and tar lies a vast, uncaring ocean and a civilized world that has already sentenced you to die. This ship, for all its horrors, is the only thing standing between you and oblivion. But how long can such a fragile thing hold back such a vast and hungry darkness? The society you've joined is a fragile, terrifying democracy. Forget the noble codes of fiction. The articles you sign, the rules governing this crew, are not a constitution. They are a survival pact written by murderers for thieves, a desperate attempt to prevent them from killing each other before they can kill their victims. The principles are stark, equal shares of plunder, a vote for every man on major decisions, and swift, brutal punishment for breaking the rules. The captain is not a king. He is a war chief, elected for his skill, his nerve, his ability to bring home treasure. His word is law during the chase and the fight, when hesitation means death. But in calm waters, he is just another voice, albeit one with a sharper cutlass and more loyal followers. Many captains have been deposed by their own crews, voted out in the night, sometimes with a knife to help persuade them. His authority hangs by a thread woven from success and fear. The true power in daily life is often the quartermaster. He controls the food, the water, the rum, and the division of loot. He is the arbiter of fairness, which makes him the focus of every grievance, every hungry glance, every whispered accusation of favoritism. A good quartermaster keeps a crew from tearing itself apart. A bad one can spark a mutiny that leaves the decks slick with internal blood. His job requires the mind of an accountant and the heart of a pit fighter. For you, at the bottom, the crew is a shifting landscape of alliances and dangers. Cliques form by nationality, Englishmen banding together, Frenchmen in their corner. Veterans eye newcomers like you with open suspicion. Every friendship is tactical. Every conversation is a subtle test. You must navigate these silent wars carefully, because when violence erupts, and it will, your life may depend on who stands beside you. And violence is the final court of appeal. The articles promise a vote, but disputes are often settled with steel. An argument over a stolen silver spoon, a gambling debt, a perceived insult, any spark can ignite a duel. These are not gentlemen's affairs. They are brawls with cutlasses on a rolling deck, or a swift, close-range pistol shot. The winner takes the spoils. The loser is sewn into his hammock and fed to the sharks. Justice is immediate, bloody, and personal. The sharing of plunder, the very heart of the pirate's promise, is a process of exquisite tension. The loot is spread on the deck or a beach, a glittering pile of stolen dreams. The quartermaster presides, but every pair of eyes is calculating, hungry, distrustful. Is that Spanish silver coin worth the same as that bolt of fine Dutch silk? Who saw the jeweled ring first? The arguments simmer, then boil over. Men who fought side by side hours before now square off over a handful of coins. The division can take days, and often ends with fresh blood staining the very treasure being divided. Where does trust live in such a place? It is the rarest cargo aboard. Every man knows his shipmate is a traitor to some former loyalty, a killer capable of betrayal. You learn a new way to sleep, lightly, always facing the room, your weapons an extension of your body. You never turn your back in a crowded space. You develop a constant, low hum of paranoia. Is that man smiling at you or sizing you up? Is that whispered conversation about the weather or about you? The celebrated code of honor is a phantom. Mercy might be shown to a surrendering crew, but only if it's convenient. More often, prisoners are sources of sport or information, their suffering a diversion from the monotony of misery. The notion of robbing only the rich is laughable. A pirate will strip a poor fisherman of his nets and his last dried fish if that's all there is. The only honor is the temporary, practical agreement not to slit each other's throats today. Loyalty is a currency that fluctuates wildly. A man who shares his rum with you tonight may try to murder you tomorrow over a change in the wind, a failed raid, or a better offer from a rival captain. Crews splinter like rotten wood. The bonds that seem unbreakable in the smoke of battle can dissolve in the cold light of a profitless dawn. You will see former brothers become the most vicious of hunters, chasing each other across the sea to settle scores no one else even understands. To prove yourself, to truly become one of them, you will be tested. It may not be formal, but it will be unmistakable. You might be handed a knife and pushed toward a bound prisoner. Make him talk. They'll say, their eyes watching not the prisoner, but your face. Your reaction is everything. Hesitation is weakness. Reluctance is a lingering connection to the civilized world, a dangerous liability. To pass, you must cross that final inner line without flinching. Can you do it? Can you trade the last shred of your conscience for a place in this fraternity of the damned? Discipline is a paradox of democracy and tyranny. The crew may vote on where to sail, but day-to-day order is kept by the officers through sheer terror. Punishments are theatrical, designed to be witnessed. A thief might lose a hand, the stump cauterized with a hot iron to the sound of his own screams. A coward might be marooned on a bare rock with a single bottle of water and a pistol containing one shot. The message is not about reform, it is about creating an example that will haunt the dreams of every other man on board. Your place in this hierarchy is earned with blood and maintained by constant performance. Skilled fighters and master sail handlers command respect, their voices louder in council. The incompetent, the unlucky, the weak, they are ballast. Expendable. In a storm or a desperate flight, they are the first to be sacrificed, thrown overboard to lighten the load without a second thought. And yet, a strange, twisted bond does form. It is not love, nor even true friendship. It is the bond of shared damnation. The ship beneath your feet is more than timber. It is your only shield against a world that wants you dead. Every man knows its every groan, its strengths, its weaknesses. You will fight to the death for this rotten, stinking vessel because its loss means the end of everything. In that shared, absolute dependence, you find the closest thing to brotherhood this life allows. The knowledge that, for now, you need each other to survive the nightmare you have collectively chosen. But how long can such a desperate pact hold when the devil comes to collect his due? The moment shatters the monotony like glass. A cry from high above, sharp and clear, cutting through the wind. Sail ho! The entire ship, a moment ago a floating slum of listless men, snaps into a single, predatory organism. Languid motions become frantic energy. The lazy routine of repair and idle chatter evaporates. This is the moment you exist for, the hunt. It is the violent heartbeat of your new life, the chance to take what you cannot earn, to prove your worth in the only currency that matters here, courage and cruelty. All eyes strain toward the horizon line. The lookout's voice carries details: the size, the cut of her sails, her heading. Is she fat and slow, a merchant heavy with cargo? Or lean and warlike, a navy vessel hunting you? The captain and his mates raise their spyglasses, silent statues calculating risk and reward. The decision hangs in the air. To chase is to commit to hours, maybe days, of pursuit. It means expending precious supplies, risking exposure, gambling your lives on the hope that the prize is worth more than the price you might pay. The order comes. Make sail. The transformation is instant and total. The ship groans as every sheet is tightened, catching the wind's full breath. The deck is cleared of all non-essentials. Below, the grim ballet of preparation begins. Cutlasses are whetted to a cruel sharpness. Pistols are loaded with measured precision. Grappling hooks are coiled like metal serpents, ready to strike. The surgeon, the butcher with his saw and rum, lays out his terrible tools in anticipation of the work to come. The chase itself is a test of wills, a slow, agonizing crescendo of tension. Your vessel must be faster, yes, but also smarter. You must read the sea, anticipate your prey's desperate turns, close the distance like a wolf stalking a deer, all while maintaining a mask of innocence. A good pirate ship can look like a harmless trader until the last possible moment. The deception is a weapon as potent as any cannon. The crew's mood is a volatile mix. There is bravado, loud jokes about what they'll do, what they'll take. But beneath it thrums a raw current of fear and anticipation. This is the ultimate gamble. That distant speck could be your road to wealth, or it could be your death warrant. Every man watches the horizon, his mind racing. What dreams of a better life await in that ship's hold? What nightmares? As the gap narrows, the air grows thick enough to choke on. Every minute stretches into an hour. You watch for signs that the quarry has seen through the ruse, a sudden shift in course, the revealing opening of gun ports, the appearance of more sails. The worst fear is the Q-ship, a humble merchant that reveals itself to be a disguised warship, its sides suddenly erupting with cannon fire. Many a hunter has become the hunted in that devastating moment of revelation. The final approach is a masterpiece of controlled menace. You are within hailing distance now, still flying a friendly flag. Your captain calls out, his voice friendly across the water. Ahoy! What news? Meanwhile, on your deck, men crouch behind rails, teeth bared in grim smiles, hands clenched on weapons. The moment stretches, taut as a rigging line in a storm. Then the performance ends. The black flag rises. It unfurls slowly, a dark blossom against the sky. The demand for surrender echoes across the waves. It is not a request. It is a proclamation of fate. The reaction of your prey dictates everything. Sometimes, you see the fight drain from them immediately. The flag has done its work. Fear has won the battle before a single shot is fired. The captain, wise to the stories of pirate atrocities, will order colors struck. His surrender is an act of preservation. But sometimes they choose to fight. From courage, from duty, or from the foolish belief that they have a chance. That is when the game transforms. The hunt becomes a fight, and the fight becomes a slaughterhouse. When the first cannon roars, the world dissolves into noise and fury. The sound is not just heard, it is felt in your chest, in your teeth. The ship shudders as if struck by a giant's fist. Wood explodes into a storm of deadly splinters. Men are not just killed, they are unmade in an instant. The lucky ones are gone before they know it. The unlucky are shattered, screaming as they clutch at the ruins of their limbs. Smoke vomits from the cannons, a thick, acrid fog that blinds and burns. You fight in a dim, hellish twilight, swinging at shapes that loom from the gloom. The taste is unforgettable, gunpowder, blood, and something coppery that is pure fear. Your senses are overwhelmed. The world shrinks to the few feet around you, to the next enemy, to the next desperate act of survival. And then, the shuddering crunch as the ships collide. Grappling hooks sail through the air, biting deep into enemy wood. The two vessels are locked in a deadly embrace. The moment of boarding is the moment of truth. All theory, all practice falls away. What are you now? Not a sailor, not a hunter, but a beast unleashed. You swarm across the gap with your brothers, a wave of rage and steel. This is not a sword fight from a story. This is close, desperate, ugly work. Cutlasses hack at arms and legs. Pistols blast at point-blank range, filling the air with more smoke and the smell of burnt flesh. Men use anything, boarding axes, knives, their own hands and teeth. The deck becomes a slippery, red mess. You trip over bodies, your own and theirs. The sounds are a cacophony of horror, screams, curses, the wet thud of metal on flesh, the cries of the wounded pleading for their mothers. In this chaos, you discover a terrifying truth about yourself. The civilized man is gone. In his place is a creature of pure instinct, capable of acts that will later haunt your darkest dreams. You move with a speed and a brutality you did not know you possessed. There is no thought, only action. No morality, only survival. You have crossed a line within yourself, and there is no returning. The taste of violence, once sampled, changes a man forever. Can you ever wash that metallic bitterness from your mouth? The battle's end is not a cheer, but a sudden, ringing silence, broken only by moans and the crackle of fire. You stand panting, your weapon heavy in your hand, your clothes spattered with the life of strangers. Around you lies the wreckage of men and ships. The victory is absolute, but it feels hollow and heavy. You have survived. But what exactly has survived? The man who boarded the ship hours ago is gone. Someone else, something else, stands in his place, staring at the spoils of a violence that is just beginning. The real prize awaits, and it will reveal the darkest depths of the brotherhood you have joined. Victory is not an end. It is merely the prelude to the true purpose of your existence, the harvest. As the last echoes of combat fade, the atmosphere shifts from frenzied violence to a cold, systematic greed. The predator now becomes the scavenger. Your crew descends upon the conquered vessel not as warriors, but as locusts. Any notion of noble thieves vanishes in this grim, meticulous ritual of theft. The first order is control. The surviving enemy crew is herded together like frightened animals, their hands bound. They are searched with rough, invasive hands. Buttons, buckles, rings, anything of even minuscule value is ripped from them and tossed into a growing pile. Their personal dignity is the first thing plundered, a deliberate act to break their spirit. You watch their faces, the shame, the terror, the dawning realization that they are now merely objects in your economy. Then the real looting begins. The ship is picked apart with a thoroughness that speaks of long, dark experience. Hatches are smashed open. Cargo holds are invaded. Barrels are stove in with axes, their contents, sugar, tobacco, spices, silks, spilling across the deck. The pirates move with a chilling efficiency, sorting the valuable from the mundane. A master carpenter's tools might be claimed. A crate of ordinary nails might be kicked overboard. Everything is assessed through the lens of profit and utility. But wealth has a way of hiding. And so begins the darker phase, extraction. Officers and wealthy passengers are separated. The promise of hidden treasure, a secret compartment, a floorboard safe, jewels sewn into a coat lining, is pursued with brutal creativity. The tools of persuasion are simple: knives, hot irons from the galley fire, the slow, deliberate application of pain. The screams that were absent during the fight now find their voice, echoing through the shattered ship. Information is a currency paid in agony. Are you watching? Or are you participating? To turn away is to mark yourself as weak, as still holding some tattered scrap of empathy. In this brotherhood, cruelty is a proof of loyalty. The treatment of any women aboard is particularly grotesque. They are seen as dual prizes, sources of ransom from wealthy families, and objects for the crew's brutal recreation. The romantic tales of chivalrous pirates are drowned here in a sea of profanity and violence. Any code of honor evaporates in the face of such opportunity. These acts are not just about pleasure, they are about power, about demonstrating absolute dominance over the vanquished. It is the final stamp on your victory, a way to tell the world, and yourselves, that you are beyond its laws, its morals, its very humanity. On the deck of your own ship, the division begins. This is the moment of truth, the source of the unity that propelled you through battle. And it is here that the brotherhood is most likely to fracture. The loot is spread out, a glittering, chaotic mass of coins, cloth, metal, and jewels. The quartermaster presides, the articles in hand, but every man's eyes are calculating, greedy, distrustful. Arguments ignite like sparks on gunpowder. That silver cup was in my hand first. The silk is water damaged, it's not a full share. He's hiding a gold chain under his shirt. The democratic ideal crashes against the rocks of human avarice. The camaraderie of the fight is forgotten. Now it is every man for himself, armed and dangerous, surrounded by treasure and former comrades who are suddenly potential thieves. The quartermaster's authority is a thin barrier against this tide of suspicion. Disputes that can't be shouted down are often settled the only way pirates know how, with a quick, violent duel that leaves one man dead and another marginally richer. Meanwhile, the fate of the captured ship itself is debated. Is it sound? Is it fast? Could it be a new consort for your fleet? Or is it a lumbering tub only worth stripping before sending it to the bottom? The decision is put to a vote, but the debate is charged. A ship means more mouths to feed, more men to share with, but also more power. Some see opportunity, others see a threat to their own share. The discussion is a microcosm of the pirate life, collective action forever at war with individual greed. The prisoners face their own judgments. Useful men, a skilled navigator, a carpenter, a surgeon, are given the same choice you once were: join or die. Some, broken, will take the oath. Others, perhaps clinging to a shred of principle, will refuse. Their fate is a lesson. They might be set adrift in a longboat with a sip of water, a gesture of calculated cruelty disguised as mercy. Or they might be made an example of, their end quick and brutal, a warning to others who would defy the black flag. As the last valuables are hauled across to your ship, a strange mood settles over the crew. The adrenaline of battle and the fever of looting subside, leaving behind a hollow excitement and a deep, unspoken unease. The wealth is here, tangible. But so is the memory of what was done to acquire it. The celebration that begins is not one of joy, but of release. Captured rum and wine are broached. Men drink not to toast their success, but to drown the ghosts of the day, the screams, the pleading eyes, the things they did and saw. This celebration is its own kind of battlefield. Drink fuels old resentments and creates new insults. Gambling begins, the precious shares of plunder changing hands in games that are often rigged. Fights break out, not against an enemy, but against the man sharing your rum bottle. The temporary unity shatters into a dozen drunken, violent fragments. You might wake from a rum-soaked stupor to find the silver coins you fought for are gone, lost to a clever card sharp or stolen by the very brother who saved your life hours before. This is the spoils of victory, a temporary abundance that highlights the permanent barrenness of your existence. You have wealth, but no safety. You have comrades, but no friends. You have freedom from the law, but are enslaved to the monster you have become. The treasure gleams in the dim light, but it casts very long, very dark shadows. And in those shadows, the authorities are already stirring. For every ship you take, your reputation grows. Your description circulates. The bounty on your head increases. The naval forces that have ignored you as a nuisance now mark you as a priority. The hunt is over. Now you are the hunted. The wealth is a burden. It must be spent, converted, hidden, or defended. It cannot simply be possessed. And so your ship turns toward one of the few blots on the map that will welcome you, a pirate port. Names like Nassau, Tortuga, or Port Royal might spark visions of a raucous, freewheeling paradise. The reality is an open sewer, a festering wound on the coastline where the worst of humanity washes up and congeals. You smell it long before you see it, a land-based echo of your own ship's stench, but magnified by rot and stagnation. The sweet, sick odor of decaying fish, the pungent reek of human waste dumped openly in the streets, the acidic tang of swamp and standing water. It's a physical presence that clings to the back of your throat. As your ship navigates the treacherous, shallow approaches, you see it, a ragged collection of leaning wooden buildings, smoke hanging low in the humid air, the whole place looking as if it is slowly sinking back into the mangrove swamps that birthed it. This is your sanctuary. This is your reward. The people who call this place home are a gallery of the damned. Pirates like you are just one variety. Here are escaped slaves with brand marks still visible on their shoulders, army deserters with hollow eyes, debtors fleeing chains of a different kind, and every manner of cutthroat and thief who has worn out their welcome in 100 other places. Women are scarce, and those present are either hardened survivors trading on the only currency they have left, or prisoners in all but name. Children, when you see them, have the watchful, feral gaze of predators, learning to pick pockets before they learn their letters. The taverns are not places of comfort. They are fortified trading posts where violence is the primary item on the menu. Each establishment is controlled by a different gang or faction. Walking into the wrong one can be a death sentence. The ale is watered, the rum is cut with God knows. Sometimes seawater, sometimes worse. Men have been blinded by a single cup. The floors are sticky with spilled drink and older, darker stains that no one bothers to scrub clean. Fights erupt over a sideways glance, a disputed debt, or simply because the pressure of existence demands an outlet. Gambling is the central ritual. It is the engine that redistributes the hard-won plunder with dizzying speed. Dice games, card tables, wagering on cockroach races, anything goes. And every game is rigged. The house always wins, and the house is often run by men even more vicious than your ship's quartermaster. Pirates, many illiterate and innumerate, are perfect marks. They will lose a year's worth of plunder in a single night, their treasure passing from their sack into the hands of professional cheats without them ever understanding the mechanics of their own ruin. To complain is to invite a knife between the ribs in a dark alley. If the taverns are brutal, the brothels are chambers of profound despair. The women there are not courtesans, they are casualties. Many are slaves, others are prisoners of war, still others are simply those who had no other path to a scrap of food. Disease is a constant resident here. Syphilis, gonorrhea, and other afflictions that will slowly, painfully burn through a man's body. Many a pirate leaves these ports not just poorer, but carrying a biological time bomb that will kill him more slowly and agonizingly than any naval broadside. Need a surgeon? You'll find one, or a man who claims the title. He's likely a drunkard who failed at every other trade, his instruments rusty, his knowledge a patchwork of superstition and butchery. An operation here, in a fly-blown back room, has a mortality rate that makes your ship's carpenter look like a medical genius. Many choose to suffer their wounds rather than submit to such care. There is no law here. Not really. Disputes are settled by personal power. The strongest, most ruthless individual in any given moment holds sway, but his authority lasts only as long as his vigilance. Murder is so commonplace that bodies are left to bloat in the sun until someone gets around to dragging them into the harbor. Justice is a personal, violent affair, a revenge killing that sparks another and another in an endless cycle. And the merchants, they are vultures who feast on the transient wealth of men like you. They sell everything at 5 times its worth: food, rope, rum, shot, sailcloth. You have no choice but to pay. They know your ship cannot sail without supplies, and they know you cannot go to a legitimate port. It is a captive market, and you are the captive. Some pirates, in a fit of rage after being cheated, will simply rob the merchant back. This is expected. It's part of the economy, a violent, circular exchange of goods and blood. Where is God in this place? He is absent. The few churches are decaying shells, used for storage or as meeting places for criminal enterprises. Any clergy are either terrified prisoners themselves or charlatans selling absolutions for a share of your silver. Most here have abandoned any pretense of faith. Their world is proof enough that if a deity exists, he has long since turned his back on this stretch of coast. You will spend your money here. The philosophy is simple: a short life, but a merry one. But there is no merriment, only a frantic, desperate consumption. Fine clothes are bought and ruined in the same night's brawl. Jewelry is gambled away. You drink to forget, and wake up remembering nothing except that your purse is empty. The wealth that cost lives to obtain is dissipated in a matter of days, leaving you with nothing but a pounding head, a new set of sores, and the grim understanding that you must now go back to the deadly work of acquiring more. These ports are not freedom. They are traps. They offer a momentary illusion of liberty while systematically stripping you of everything you own and poisoning you in body and soul. They are the glittering bait on the hook of the pirate's life. You swim to them, desperate for refuge, only to be caught, consumed, and spat back out onto the cruel sea, hungrier and more broken than before. And as you stumble back to your ship, your pockets empty, your body aching, you look out at the darkening horizon. The hunt must begin again. But now, you are not just hunting. You are being hunted. The world has taken notice, and its vengeance is slow, patient, and absolute. Can you feel the noose beginning to tighten? The noose is not a metaphor. It is a very real rope, measured for your neck by carpenters employed by the crown. While you were drinking and brawling in your lawless haven, the civilized world was organizing. The golden age of piracy is not an era of freedom. It is a brief, violent anomaly, and the powers of Europe have decided to correct it. You are no longer a nuisance. You are a threat to commerce, to empire, to order itself. And they have unleashed the machinery of the state to grind you into nothing. The instruments of your destruction are professional, cold, and efficient. Royal Navy frigates and sloops of war now patrol the shipping lanes you once ruled. These are not the undermanned, rotting hulks you might have known. They are predators bred for this hunt, faster, heavier, manned by disciplined crews who follow orders, not votes. Their captains are career officers, educated in tactics and navigation, with charts that are accurate and spyglasses that are clear. They do not fight for a share of plunder. They fight for promotion, for honor, for the sheer satisfaction of eradicating what they see as a cancer on the sea. The intelligence gathered against you is startling in its depth. Colonial governors have built networks of informants in the very ports you frequent. That bartender who poured your rum? He might be taking notes for the English governor. The merchant who cheated you on the price of gunpowder? He will sell your ship's description just as quickly. Captured pirates are not simply hanged. They are persuaded to talk. Under torture, they reveal everything: the location of hidden coves, the names of corrupt officials, the planned routes of their brethren. Your world, built on secrecy and loyalty, is being meticulously mapped by your enemies. The legal net is designed for swift and terrible closure. Special admiralty courts are established in colonial capitals. There is no jury of your peers, for you have no peers in the eyes of the law. The judge serves as prosecutor, jury, and sentencer. The trials are swift, the evidence overwhelming. The stolen goods on your ship are testimony enough. The verdict is a foregone conclusion. The sentence is always the same: death by hanging. The process is not about justice. It is about sending a message, a public spectacle of authority reasserting its absolute power. And the spectacle is carefully stage-managed. Executions are public holidays. Crowds gather, not in mourning, but in morbid fascination. Pirates are hanged in batches, their bodies sometimes coated in tar and suspended in iron cages called gibbets at the entrance to harbors. They are left there for years, their skeletons slowly picked clean by birds and the elements, a rotting warning to every sailor who enters or leaves port. This is your future, swinging in the wind, your name becoming a cautionary tale told to frightened children. The pressure transforms your daily existence. Every sail on the horizon is a potential threat. Is that a merchantman or a navy ship flying false colors? The paranoia that was once a background hum becomes a constant, shrieking siren in your mind. Sleep, already fractured, becomes nearly impossible. You start at every unusual sound, the creak of a timber, the cry of a night bird. Trust, always fragile, now evaporates completely. Is that new crew member a genuine desperate soul, or a planted agent, waiting to sabotage your powder magazine at a crucial moment? You eye your own brothers with suspicion, wondering whose fear or greed might be turned by the promise of a royal pardon. For the pardons are the most cunning weapon of all. Proclamations are issued, surrender by a certain date, and receive the king's mercy. It is a genuine offer, but a poisoned one. To accept means giving up your ship, your arms, your way of life. It often means informing on others. The promise cleaves crews apart. Some men, weary of the chase, see a fragile lifeline. Others see betrayal. The knowledge that your shipmate might be dreaming of that pardon, might be planning to turn you in to buy his own salvation, poisons the well of your fellowship. The brotherhood crumbles from within. One by one, the safe harbors wink out. Naval squadrons blockade or outright capture the pirate ports. Nassau is tamed by a royal governor with a warship at his back. Tortuga is choked off by French authorities. The neutral shores where you once careened your ship to scrape its hull are now patrolled. The world is shrinking, closing in. Your ship is no longer a vessel of liberation. It is a wooden island, adrift in a hostile sea, with fewer and fewer places to hide. The technology gap becomes a yawning chasm. Your cannons are a mismatched collection, taken from various prizes. Their shot is often ill-fitting. Your navigation relies on stolen charts, dead reckoning, and luck. The Navy ships have standardized armaments, clean powder, trained gunners, and chronometers. They can chase you into whether you would fear to navigate. They have the resources to maintain pursuit for weeks, while your food and water turn foul. The end, when it comes for most, is not a glorious last stand. It is a sudden, shocking violence in the morning light. A sleek frigate appears where none should be, having tracked you through the night. It outsails you, outguns you. Your crew, hungover, divided, and terrified, scrambles to battle stations, but the fight is already over. Their first broadside shreds your rigging, leaving you a helpless driftwood target. The second sweeps your deck with grape shot, turning men into red mist. There is no heroic boarding action. There is only surrender or annihilation. For the famous captains, the ones whose names spread terror, the hunt is even more relentless. Their fate is ceremonial. Blackbeard, hunted down in a shallow North Carolina inlet, shot 5 times and cut 20 more before he fell. His head was mounted on the victor's bowsprit. Black Bart Roberts, the most successful of them all, was killed by a Navy broadside, his body given a sea burial by the very officers who hunted him, a flicker of respect for a formidable foe. Their deaths are not just victories, they are symbols. The myth of the invincible pirate king is punctured, publicly and permanently. You are not just fighting ships. You are fighting an idea, the idea of order. And order has more guns, more money, more patience, and a longer memory than you do. The hunt is on. And in this hunt, you are no longer the predator. You are the prey. The freedom you sold your soul for has become a vast, empty ocean with nowhere left to run. The only question that remains is not if the end will come, but when and how much of yourself will be left to witness it. Before the rope or the broadside claims you, your own body may stage its mutiny. The sea, your prison, and your home is a relentless poisoner. The life you lead is a systematic assault on human biology, and disease is the silent, most prolific killer in your company. It claims more pirates than all the navies of Europe combined, working slowly, invisibly, from the inside out. Scurvy is your constant, creeping companion. You don't understand its cause, no one does. You only know its progression. It begins with a profound tiredness that sleep cannot cure, a heaviness in your bones. Then your skin bruises at the slightest touch, purple flowers blooming under filthy cloth. Your gums are next. They grow spongy, tender, and then they bleed at the mere pressure of a hardtack biscuit. Your breath takes on a sweet, fetid odor that marks you. Teeth loosen in their sockets, rattling when you chew, until they fall out into your palm. Old wounds, scars you thought long healed, split open and weep. In its final stages, you hemorrhage internally. You drown in your own blood, your body's connective tissue having dissolved into a useless, gelatinous mush. It is a death of unraveling. Dysentery is a more violent, swift attacker. The foul water, the spoiled food, the utter lack of sanitation, they breed it. It starts with cramps that double you over. Then comes the bloody flux, a relentless draining that leaves you weak, hollowed out, and chained to the reeking head, what passes for a toilet, or simply leaning over the rail. Dehydration follows, a thirst that no amount of brackish water can quench. You shrink inside your skin, your eyes sinking into your skull as your body consumes itself from within. In the close quarters, it spreads like gossip, laying low half a crew in a matter of days. Then there are the fevers. Typhus, carried by the lice that nest in your clothes and hair, is a furnace. It burns through you with a high, relentless heat, bringing delirium and a distinctive red rash that mottles your skin. You rant about things unseen, trapped in a waking nightmare while your shipmates tie you down to prevent you from throwing yourself overboard. But the king of the tropical horrors is Yellow Jack, yellow fever. It begins deceptively, with aches and chills you might mistake for a passing ailment. Then the transformation. Your skin and the whites of your eyes take on a sickly, jaundiced yellow hue. The fever spikes, burning away reason. And then comes the black vomit, a terrifying, tarry substance as your internal organs hemorrhage and fail. The mortality rate is staggering. Men in their prime are reduced to yellowed, convulsing corpses in a week. There is no cure, only the awful wait to see if you are among the lucky minority who survive. Malaria is a recurring curse, a ghost that never leaves. The mosquitoes breeding in the stagnant bilge water are its messengers. It hits in waves, bone-rattling chills that no blanket can soothe, followed by a fever that cooks you from the inside, then drenching sweats that leave you shivering and exhausted. It saps your strength, returning again and again, making you a permanent invalid aboard a ship that has no room for the weak. The consequences of your time in port manifest in other, slower ways. The pox, syphilis, is a creeping death. It starts with a painless sore you ignore. It disappears, and you think you're healed. But it is merely hiding, migrating to your bones, your brain, your heart. Years later, it returns as madness, as rotting flesh, as a gradual, humiliating disintegration of your mind and body. Gonorrhea brings a different agony, a burning fire that makes urination torture and can leave you sterile, a hollow reminder of fleeting pleasures that cost a permanent price. Your mouth is a catalog of neglect. Between the scurvy, the lack of any cleaning, the brutal diet, and the constant rum, your teeth are blackened stumps or absent altogether. The pain of an abscessed tooth is an exquisite torture, a pounding, white-hot agony that dominates your universe. The only remedy is extraction with a pair of blacksmith's pincers, a procedure so brutal men often prefer the pain. Respiratory illnesses thrive in the damp, crowded hold. Tuberculosis, the consumption, is a slow thief. It steals your breath first, then your flesh, leaving you a coughing, skeletal wraith who spatters your hammock with blood-flecked phlegm. It is hauntingly contagious, and once it takes root on a ship, it seldom leaves. Your skin is a map of misery, salt sores that never heal, fungal rashes that bloom in the perpetual damp. Every small cut, every scrape from rough hemp risks turning into a festering ulcer. Without clean bandages or medicine, infection sets in. The flesh around a wound grows red, hot, and swollen, the poison spreading up your limb in visible red streaks. Blood poisoning is a death sentence, a feverish, painful end as your own body turns against you. The surgeon, if you have one, is a figure of terror. His medicine is trauma. His cure for a shattered limb is amputation. A brutal, swift sawing through bone while strong men pin you down. The anesthesia is a mouthful of rum and a leather strap to bite. The cauterization is a red-hot iron press to the bleeding stump. The screams are part of the procedure. Many choose to take their chances with gangrene rather than face his care. His pharmacopoeia consists of purgatives, emetics, and mercury compounds that are often more toxic than the diseases they purport to treat. You live in a petri dish of suffering. Death by disease is not quick or clean. It is a protracted, degrading process that strips you of dignity long before it takes your life. You watch strong men wither into children, begging for water, soiling themselves, forgotten by their comrades who cannot afford to catch what they have. The dead are sewn into their hammocks with a last cannonball at their feet and tipped over the side without ceremony. There are too many to mourn. The irony is profound. You sought a life of freedom from the land's constraints, only to become a slave to the microscopic life that thrives in your floating world. The treasure you sought cannot buy health. The freedom you craved is the freedom to die in a dozen horrible ways, your body betraying you long before any enemy could. The sea does not just drown men. It rots them from the inside, a slow, sure consumption that proves, in the end, that the most terrifying enemy you face shares your hammock, your cup, and the very air you struggle to breathe. How much of you will be left when the final reckoning comes? Will there even be a you to recognize when the end arrives? The body's rebellion is mirrored by the mind's slow surrender. The sea does not just rot flesh, it erodes sanity. The isolation is absolute, an endless, hypnotic circle of water and sky that plays tricks on the senses and unravels the soul. You are cut off from every anchor of normal life, family, community, the solid, unchanging earth. In that void, madness grows like mold in the damp hold. It begins with the silence, a profound emptiness broken only by the wind's whine and the ship's groans. Then come the hallucinations. Your eyes, starved for variety, begin to paint pictures on the blank canvas of the waves. You see phantom islands on the horizon, lush and inviting, that vanish as you approach. You see ships that are not there, their sails full of ghostly wind. Some men swear they hear voices calling their names from the deep, or see the faces of loved ones reflected in the water at night. The line between waking and dreaming blurs, then dissolves. The constant, low-grade terror of your existence, the fear of the enemy, the officer, your own crewmate, rewires your mind for paranoia. Hypervigilance becomes your default state. You jump at shadows. You interpret a cough, a sideways glance, a drop tool as a potential threat. This exhausting, relentless alertness frays your nerves until they are raw. Sleep, when it comes, is not restorative. It is a tentative ceasefire where nightmares reign. You wake more tired than when you lay down, your hand already gripping your knife. To survive, you had to kill the man you were. That moral death has consequences. The ethical framework that once guided you, the concepts of right and wrong, of compassion, of innocence, has been dismantled. In its place is a hollow, echoing space. You justify atrocity as necessity. You reframe theft as redistribution. You see mercy as a dangerous luxury. This isn't a conscious choice anymore. It is a reflex. But the ghost of your old conscience doesn't vanish. It haunts you, creating a civil war within your own skull. The cognitive dissonance of being both the perpetrator and the horrified witness to your own actions is a special kind of torture. Alcohol, your constant companion, is both fuel and poison. You drink to numb the pain, to find courage, to forge a temporary bond with men you distrust. But the rum fuels the paranoia, loosens the grip on violent impulses, and accelerates the mental decay. It doesn't drown the ghosts, it gives them louder voices. The cycle is vicious. You drink to forget the horror, the drink makes you more horrific, and you wake with more to forget. Superstition rushes in to fill the vacuum left by reason and religion. Hardened men see omens in everything. The albatross following the ship is a death warrant. A shark trailing in the wake is a sign of impending betrayal. A dream of drowning means someone on board will perish within the week. These beliefs are not quaint traditions. They are articles of faith that dictate actions. A man accused of bringing bad luck might be shunned, beaten, or even killed to appease the capricious spirits of the sea. The ship becomes a floating asylum of irrational fear. The nightmares are not mere dreams, they are relentless, vivid replays. You are back on the deck of the merchantman, the man's face before you as your cutlass falls. You hear the specific pitch of his scream. You feel the resistance of bone and sinew. You wake gasping, the smell of blood and powder still in your nostrils, your hands trembling. These nocturnal hauntings bleed into your waking hours. You'll catch yourself staring at a shipmate, seeing for a moment the face of a man you killed. The past is never past. It is a silent, screaming passenger you carry everywhere. The social environment is a pressure cooker of stress. There is no privacy, no outlet, no safe space. Every interaction is charged with potential conflict. The constant, petty competition for status, for food, for a slightly better spot to sling your hammock, wears down your civility. You are surrounded by men who are also breaking, their instability feeding your own. Watching a strong comrade succumb to gibbering madness is terrifying because you see a possible future for yourself. Madness is contagious in close quarters. Language itself deteriorates. Complex thought becomes difficult to express. Your vocabulary shrinks to the crude, functional slang of the ship, words for violence, for tools, for basic needs. The poetry of your former life, the ability to describe a feeling, a memory, a hope, is lost. You become more inarticulate, more trapped inside a deteriorating mind with fewer and fewer ways to call for help, even if anyone would listen. The final stages manifest in different ways. Some men succumb to a violent, explosive psychosis. They become berserkers, turning on friend and foe in a frenzy, needing to be subdued and restrained like wild animals. Others retreat inward, becoming catatonic husks. They sit for hours, staring at nothing, unresponsive to orders or threats, their minds having fled to some internal refuge from which there is no return. Some develop elaborate, grandiose delusions. They are kings in exile, agents of divine wrath, already dead and serving penance in this watery purgatory. This is the true cost, the hidden ledger of the pirate's life. You traded not just your future, but your mind. The freedom of the seas is the freedom to go utterly, completely mad, surrounded by people who are too far gone themselves to notice or care. You are sailing on a ship of fools, captained by desperation, destined for a rocky shore that exists only in your crumbling perception. The treasure you sought was never gold. It was oblivion. And as your thoughts scatter like leaves in a hurricane, you realize, in a moment of terrible clarity, that you are finding it. The world is dissolving into noise and shadow. Does it even matter now? The person who could answer that question has been left far behind, drowned in the depths of your own fractured psyche. All that remains is the endless blue and the whispering void inside. The end, when it arrives, is neither glorious nor clean. It is the logical, often ignominious, conclusion to a life spent courting oblivion. For all the talk of freedom and brotherhood, the pirate's retirement plan has only one beneficiary, death. And death, in this world, is a creative accountant, exacting payment in a variety of gruesome currencies. For many, the ledger is settled in battle. But forget the heroic last stand. More often, it is a sudden, anonymous violence. A cannonball, fired from a ship whose name you'll never know, tears through the deck planking and removes your legs. You bleed out in minutes, your life seeping into the scuppers, your final sight the boots of your comrades running past. Or a random musket ball finds the space between your ribs as you raise your pistol, and you slump over the rail, joining the flotsam in the water. There is no meaning in these deaths, no noble sacrifice. They are statistical probabilities, the inevitable cost of doing violent business. The lucky ones die quickly, their consciousness extinguished before the pain registers. The unlucky linger for hours, crying for water or a final mercy shot that never comes, their agony a background soundtrack to the ongoing fight. For those who survive the battle, a worse fate may await: capture. The Navy does not take prisoners for rehabilitation. They take them for example. Your trial is a formality, a theatrical performance where you play the villain. The evidence is your own ship, your own cargo, the testimony of men you robbed. The judge's face is a mask of cold contempt. The sentence is never in doubt. You are a cancer to be cut from the body of respectable commerce, and the surgery will be public. The execution is the main event. You are paraded through jeering crowds to the gallows erected at the water's edge. The rope is coarse, the knot clumsy. The drop does not always break your neck. Sometimes you strangle, your legs dancing a frantic, humiliating jig for what feels like an eternity as the spectators cheer. Afterwards, your body might be denied even the mercy of burial. You are coated in tar and suspended in an iron cage, a gibbet, at the harbor's mouth. Your corpse is left to the elements and the birds. For years, sailors entering port will point you out, a sun-bleached, skeletal warning. Your name becomes a punchline, a horror story. This is your legacy, a public ornament of decay. Sometimes, the betrayal comes from within. The brother you shared your last biscuit with eyes the growing bounty on your head. Or he covets your share of the last haul. Or he simply fears you. A knife in the back during the night watch, a sudden shove overboard in a storm. Your end is quick, intimate, and utterly without honor. Your body is gone before the morning muster, your disappearance noted with a shrug and the quick redistribution of your possessions. The bonds of the sea are strong, but the lure of gold or survival is stronger. For many more, death comes not with a bang, but with a wasting whisper. The diseases you have carried for months or years finally collect their due. You die curled in your reeking hammock, shivering with fever, your mind addled by sickness. Your shipmates avoid you, fearing contagion. There is no comfort, only the slow ebbing of strength. You are sewn into your bedding and committed to the deep with a minimal, hasty ceremony. The captain might mumble a few words, but everyone's thoughts are already on your leftover rum and who will get your cutlass. You are replaced as easily as a broken block on the rigging. The madness that has been your shadow can also be your executioner. In a moment of profound despair, the endless blue becomes a siren's song. You climb the rail one quiet night, unnoticed, and step into the darkness. The water is colder than you imagined. The struggle is brief. The sea, your constant companion and tormentor, finally accepts you. It is a choice, in its way, the last autonomous act of a man who had none. For the rare few who somehow evade battle, disease, and the noose, a hollow existence awaits. You might slip away in a remote port, your name changed, your past a secret. But you are a ghost. Your body is a ruin of scars and missing parts. Your health is shattered. The skills you have, fighting, stealing, sailing a ship of war, are useless in a peaceful port. You are shunned, a walking reminder of a nightmare most want to forget. You live in poverty, jumping at loud noises, haunted by faces in crowds. The pardon you may have received is just paper. It cannot pardon you from your own memories, from the sickness in your soul. You die alone in a rented room, your end as quiet and unmourned as your life was loud and notorious. Your family, if you had one and they still remember you, bears your shame. They change their names, move away, disavow you. Your crimes stain their lives for generations. You sought a legacy of fear and wealth, but you leave behind only whispers of disgrace and a story used to frighten children into obedience. Historically, you are a brief footnote. Most pirates die without leaving a single verifiable record of their existence. Their names are lost, their stories conflated with others, their reality buried under layers of myth. You become a caricature, a symbol of lawlessness, not a human being who lived, suffered, and made terrible choices. The final, cruel joke is this. You sold your soul for treasure, and the treasure was always an illusion. The gold was spent on rot-gut liquor and rigged dice. The silks were ruined by salt and blood. The adventure was a litany of suffering. The freedom was the freedom to be hunted, to be sick, to be mad. In seeking to escape one kind of slavery, poverty, press gangs, social station, you embraced another, far more absolute. You became a slave to violence, to fear, to the very ship that was your home. Your story does not end with a treasure chest on a beach. It ends with an empty purse, a diseased body, and a rope, a bullet, or the cold, dark water. The black flag promised you the world. It failed to mention that the price was everything you were and everything you could ever hope to be. The sea gives nothing. It only takes. And in the end, it takes you too, leaving no trace but a fading ripple on an indifferent expanse. The hunt is finally over. But who really has won? The hunt is over because the hunters have become too efficient, and the world has grown too small. The golden age of piracy was not an era. It was a brief, violent fever that broke upon the shores of concerted, organized power. One by one, the symptoms were treated, and the patient, the maritime empire, recovered, purging itself of the infection that was you. The navies did not simply chase you, they strangled your world. They understood that a pirate ship cannot live on the open ocean forever. It needs safe harbors to careen and repair its hull. It needs ports to sell plunder and buy food, powder, and rum. It needs a network. So they targeted the network. Nassau was occupied and reformed. Tortuga was suppressed. The hidden coves and secluded beaches were patrolled, their freshwater sources poisoned or guarded. Like a doctor starving of fever, they cut off your supply lines. Your floating hell became a drifting coffin, with nowhere to dock and replenish. The technology of authority advanced while yours stagnated. The Navy ships were products of shipyards with unlimited resources. Their hulls were sleek copper sheath to resist worm and fouling, making them perpetually faster than your barnacle-crusted vessel. They carried chronometers for precise longitude while you guessed. Their signal books allowed squadrons to coordinate over horizons, while you relied on luck and lanterns. The gap was not just in firepower, but in the very science of the sea. You were fighting the past against their future. The pardons were a masterstroke of psychological warfare. They offered a tangible, if bitter, alternative to the gallows. They split crews, turning potential allies into informants and desperate men into hopeful traitors. The promise of a return to the world, however scorned you might be, was a powerful lure against the certainty of a violent end at sea. The Brotherhood, built on mutual desperation, could not withstand the offer of individual salvation. It turned the pirates' greatest strength, collective loyalty, into its fatal weakness. The famous captains, the figureheads of the resistance, were hunted with particular zeal. Their deaths were not mere executions. They were symbolic decapitations. When Blackbeard fell, his head mounted on a bowsprit, it proved no legend could withstand a Navy broadside. When Calico Jack was captured, his crew famously offering little fight, it showed the emptiness of the pirates' rebellious bravado. These men were the standard bearers, and when their standards fell, the morale of every other crew faltered. Their myth died with them, and without myth, piracy was just a dangerous, dirty job with terrible benefits. The economic calculus also turned against you. Merchant companies, tired of losses, invested in convoys, armed guards, and faster, more defensible ships. The risk-to-reward ratio shifted. Where once a lone, fat merchantman was easy prey, now you faced a wolf pack of well-armed vessels sailing together, or a Q-ship that was a wolf in sheep's clothing. The cost of an attack, in men, in damage to your ship, in powder, began to outweigh the dwindling rewards. Piracy was becoming bad business. You lived in a state of perpetual, exhausting transition. The world you had rejected was evolving to eliminate you, while your world could only degrade. Your ship grew slower, your crew more diseased and mutinous, your options fewer. Every day was a gamble with increasingly loaded dice. The constant pressure of being hunted wore down even the most resilient minds. Paranoia became a self-fulfilling prophecy, leading to internal purges and mutinies that weakened you from within just when you needed unity most. The ports that remained, the last festering sores of lawlessness, became traps themselves. Naval spies were everywhere. A night of drinking could end with a press gang of a different sort, Royal Marines bursting into the tavern. The merchants who still dealt with you did so at exorbitant rates, knowing you were a dying breed with nowhere else to go. Your money bought less and less, and the danger it brought grew greater and greater. In the end, the pirate's life was proven to be a mathematical failure. It offered a short, intense spike of potential gain against a near certainty of early, violent death. No society, however makeshift, can sustain itself on such terms for long. The recruitment pool dried up as the tales of gibbeted corpses reached the taverns of Europe faster than the tales of buried treasure. Young men, seeking escape, found other nightmares in the armies and factories of the growing industrial world. Your era ended not with a glorious battle, but with a whimper. The last survivors were not flamboyant captains, but desperate, broken men hiding in the mangrove swamps, trading their last pieces of 8 for a bottle of poison rum. Their ships were burned, captured, or simply rotted at anchor. The black flags were torn down, repurposed as rags or lost to history. The vacuum left by your disappearance was quickly filled. Insurance rates on shipping fell. Trade routes solidified into secure highways of empire. The Navy, honed by decades of hunting you, turned its guns on new enemies. The world moved on, and the pirate became a relic, a ghost story, a romanticized fiction for books and later, for screens. The brutal, stinking, hopeless reality was sanitized, packaged, and sold as adventure. You were not the last free men on the ocean. You were the last desperate gasp of a pre-industrial, lawless chaos that the modern, organized state could not and would not tolerate. You were chaos. And order, with all its guns, its laws, and its relentless, boring efficiency, always wins in the end. It may take time, but it grinds down the exceptional, the rebellious, and the wild, until nothing is left but stories. And even those stories are taken from you, rewritten to fit a more palatable, more marketable narrative. Your truth is buried beneath the weight of your own legend. The hunt is over. You lost. And history, written by the victors, has already forgotten who you really were. So, as the lights in your room are low and the world outside grows quiet, let this be the true end of our journey. The brutal life of a pirate was exactly that. Brutal. It was not an alternative to a mundane existence. It was a rejection of humanity itself. These men were not champions of freedom, but victims of a crushing desperation that transformed them into monsters. Their ships were not vessels of liberation, but floating tombs where hope, health, and sanity went to die. They traded soft beds for lice-infested hammocks, warm meals for maggoty hardtack, community for a paranoid collective of potential murderers. They sought treasure and found disease. They dreamed of glory and met the gallows. They reached for a crown and grasped only a cold, heavy cannonball pulling them into the deep. The sea they thought would set them free became their warden, their torturer, and their final, anonymous grave. Tonight, as you lie in the safety and comfort that they would have murdered for, remember the cost of their myth. The romantic pirate is a comforting lie we tell ourselves, that rebellion can be clean, that freedom can be seized without consequence, that we can live outside the rules and remain whole. The truth is far darker and far more human. Every man who sailed under the black flag was once a boy with a mother, a man with a trade, a soul with a conscience. The sea, and the choices it forced upon him, stripped all that away, layer by agonizing layer, until only a violent husk remained. Their story is not one of adventure. It is a tragedy, a slow-motion catastrophe of the human spirit. It is a reminder that when we break our bonds to society, we do not float into the sky, we often sink into a deeper, more personal hell. The chains they forged for themselves were heavier than any iron shackles pressed upon them. They suffered greatly, but they did not suffer long. In that brevity lies the only mercy their world afforded. Their miserable, violent ends were often a release from a life that had become unbearable. The rope, the cannonball, the fever, these were not just punishments, but conclusions to a sentence they had begun writing the moment they stepped onto that damned deck. So let us not romanticize them. Let us understand them. Let us see in their horrific choices a mirror to our own desperation and a warning about the price of abandoning our humanity for the sake of an illusion. Their bones are white coral at the bottom of the sea. Their treasure is dust. Their legacy is a cautionary tale, whispered not with envy, but with a shudder. Before you drift fully into sleep, I want to thank you for allowing Sleepy Owl to be part of your evening. If this journey into the darker corridors of history helped quiet your mind, I would be grateful if you'd like the video and subscribe to the channel. Your support allows me to continue unearthing these forgotten stories and sharing them with you. It's a profound privilege to be your guide. Let me know in the comments where in the world you're listening from. It's a quiet wonder to think of this story weaving through the night to different corners of the globe, a shared moment of stillness. And as you finally let go, hold onto this final, gentle truth. The greatest treasure is not gold in a chest, but peace in your spirit. The most profound freedom is not escaping all rules, but finding your rest within them. The sea's deepest graves hold no treasure, only the echoes of men who traded their souls for saltwater and shadows. And the most terrifying prison is not made of wood and iron, but of the choices we make when we believe we have none at all. Sleep well. The story is over. The nightmare belongs to the past. Your quiet room, your steady breath, the soft darkness, these are the real wonders. Cherish them. Good night.